Let's go on a journey today. Let's go up Highway 9 to Highway 35 in the Santa Cruz Mountains. And the subject that I want to talk about today is how trees evolve at certain elevations. And sometimes they'll do much better in the right elevation for the right reason. Well, the story goes there's a park up on Highway 35 that I was given permission 26 years ago to plant a memorial grove of redwood trees. The redwood trees were all 5-gallon pots and they were donated to us. Out of the 35 original plantings, only 16 trees remain today. And many of these trees are very stunted. Some of them were smashed and they grew back from a stump, as this one right here is. Now, what's really interesting about this park is I've been watching it evolve and change. Every single year I go up here and look at these trees. I see so many subtle changes. Trees die, trees fall down. Lots of fir trees are coming up everywhere, but only a few of the redwood trees are doing okay. And this little circle of redwood trees, there was 5 redwood trees and 1 Douglas fir at the front, which is now sadly just a stump. I don't know why, but somebody cut that down. That was fairly recent. That Douglas fir was kind of the doorway to this little circle of redwoods. Maybe a ranger thought that was a bad idea. I don't know. But these individual trees were all mulched. These 5 trees in this one particular area were the only ones that were mulched. And the adjacent trees, here's an adjacent tree, they're barely surviving. They're being overcrowded by the other trees, and they're being overshadowed, and they weren't mulched, so they didn't do quite as well. So when I look around the adjacent area, I find a tree here and a tree there, but the majority of them are all understory trees because the big ones have overshadowed them. The big ones meaning the faster, more aggressive species that do better in this environment. Because we're at the top of a hill, we're at almost 3,000 feet. Redwoods like it down lower. They like it where it's a little bit moister. It's where the hillsides will collect more water. Now you can grow a redwood tree out of its native environment and they can do quite well, but oftentimes they don't. And for a number of reasons. Oh, look at that. There's a fresh, new top broken out of this little tree. I tell you, it really is survival of the fittest. Just like in the animal kingdom, the plant kingdom, the plants that adapt to certain environments do the best. Now here is one of the better trees that we planted, and this is that little grouping of 5. That one actually sprouted a secondary piece, but that is just one tree. And of these 5 trees, I did mulch them all. There was a big rotting stump there, a big old fir stump. And when I planted these trees, I put quite a bit of mulch around each of them. And that's the only difference. But it was fun. It was like a hunt going out there looking at all these trees. And I was astonished that there's so many of them are so small. They're barely growing at all. Of course, they're not getting any additional irrigation, as I said, so that's part of the problem. Another huge part is that they were all 5-gallon pots that were root bound. When I pulled the roots out of every one of the pots up here, they were just a big circle of taut roots I tried to break them up the best I could, but they all got off to a bad start from the very get-go. Now there's a bunch of other trees up here that are much more adapted to this higher environment. This is right at a ridge. The wind blows through here fiercely. This is the very top of a ridge. It's downhill on all sides. So the oak trees grow up here. A lot of the black oaks do well. A lot of firs. Oh, the Doug firs are just exploding up here. The little seedling firs are coming up everywhere. And a lot of the black oaks are struggling. Many of them are dying. And there are huge oak trees that are no longer there that have crashed down on a lot of those 35 original trees, and they're no longer there. But the firs are exploding. Now look at the front there. It's hard, you really have to look close and really see clearly, but that front tree is one of those 35 redwoods. And I didn't even see this one, but I looked back, and there's one redwood that we planted that is doing pretty good. I mean, if this tree was planted down in the lowlands and got additional irrigation, it would have been, in 26 years, it could have been 3 feet in diameter. But up here, where it's just not getting the water that it needs, they're surviving, but it'll be interesting to see for how long. As long as I'm around, I'm going to keep going up to this little park and checking it out at least once a year and pay attention. But I've grown to know all the trees up in this park very, I should say, intimately, because not only did I plant a lot of them, but I remember clearly what this place looked like and how things are changing. Trees are falling apart and trees are dying. And this is probably one of the most interesting trees that I want to talk about today. This redwood was planted at the exact same time as all those other trees that we planted, but it was only in a 1-gallon can, and it was only 12 inches tall. And clearly it's the best of all the planted trees. Now maybe it's because the driveway gathers up the water and it all comes in here. Maybe this one was mulched better. Maybe it was better soil. But I believe it has a lot to do with the crowding of the roots. So when you drive around up in the mountains, up in the forest, don't just pay attention to where you're going and what the road is like. Look at what species of trees have adapted to the elevation and the environment that you're in. Well, thanks for watching.